Hello guys, and welcome to the June 15th episode of This Week in BJJ. Thank you for being part of the broadcast, and we wanted to remind you that there is a chat feature just below the video screen. Just scroll down just a little bit. We'd appreciate you being part of the broadcast. We like this to be a dialogue, so feel free to ask any comments or leave any questions for us, whether it's related to what we're talking about or not. I'm Budo Jake, and I'm joined here with Budo Dane, and the third guest here is Strongbow. This is a cider from England. I was introduced to this when we were there for the ADCC last year, and we also filmed the Braulio episode of Rolled Up. It's a great cider, and I want to thank you all English fans for introducing us to Strongbow. So Dane, how are you doing this week?
I am fantastic. I've been working a lot in training.
What have you been working on?
I've been working mostly the leg lasso. I come from a no-gi background. I have 2 years in no-gi, and so I haven't really paid much attention to grips and spider guard. And so I'm really trying to, pull myself out of the comfort zone and try things like leg lasso. And it's going well. I mean, there's setbacks, but I guess that's part of the process, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was one. I don't remember if it was David Meyer or John Will. One of those guys are kind of a team. It was one of them that said that you should try things 10 times. I think this is what they said. And you're going to fail 10 times, but you can't give up. You got to keep with it, and after the 10th time, it'll start to work for you. Do you feel that that's important for you in your training?
No. Last night in training went pretty badly for me. I've been having trouble with people passing with the sweep that I'm working on leg lasso, and a lot of it is that people are shoving the leg through, and I think part of failing is also, the flip side of that is figuring out why you're failing. Because a lot of times it's easy to fall into despair, right? Because it's like, this isn't working, I'm just going to give up on this.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And a lot of people, I think, too early on, they say, this doesn't fit my game, it's not for me.
Right.
Right. So you just got to fight your way through it.
Yeah, no, and that's part of the process for me, is that, not that I felt that I've plateaued, but I felt that I've seen the pastures, and I said, I need to pursue that. And it's going to be bad for me for a while. I'm going to get passed, I may get submitted, whatever, but it's a matter of not having faith, but believing that at the end of this journey, or at the end of this process, I'm going to be a better practitioner for it.
Yeah, you have to be okay with failing.
Right.
I think Thomas Edison was one of those guys that he failed 100 times, but he didn't see that as a failure. He just found the things that didn't work.
Right.
And by finding what doesn't work, you get closer to finding what does work.
Right, which feeds into the entire thing of just, eliminate the things that you're doing wrong until finally you get to something that works.
Right.
Right.
Speaking of somebody who got somewhere, our good friend Caleb, who has his own podcast, the Fireworks Podcast, and joins us on all of our live broadcasts, recently got his black belt. And that was a really cool thing to see. He's been training a long time.
Right.
Let's take a look at the picture here. This is him with his instructor, Fabio Santos, in San Diego. And like I say, he's had a long journey, over 10 years to black belt. He has had a major knee injury. So it's cool to see a guy who's given back so much to the sport get rewarded for his black belt.
And he, at least the way that I learned it, he didn't do it in the most ostentatious or the gaudiest way possible. The way I learned was on Twitter, and it was just dreams do come true in the picture we just saw. Mm-hmm. And I remember clicking on it, looking at it and be like, wait, what? You got it? And that was it. And that was just the best. I think that's the best way for him to have done it.
Yep, that's true. Speaking of black belt, what's your vision of a black belt? What's it mean to you?
So I compete. I'm competing at the end of the month, and so oftentimes I look up to my teacher, my professor, and I look for them for help. Like, what are your suggestions? And my professor happens to have done well in competition, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to have competed to have been a black belt. But I would like for them to be able to address my concerns as a competitor, and as a relatively newer competitor. I'm not someone that's competed for years. I've done sparse competitions here and there, and I'm still kind of finding my way. So I think part of that is, with a black belt, especially a teacher, I'm looking for someone that can give me advice, and not necessarily solace, but could kind of guide me. That said, outside the competition circles, there's also there's other concerns with, self-defense and, you know, just training and maybe dealing with injuries and dealing with different issues. And I think that's what a black belt is not necessarily someone that has an answer to all questions, but can address most of the situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I can paraphrase, you're saying that it's important that they know the self-defense aspect. That's where jiu-jitsu comes from.
Right.
But you should also have some experience with competition, because that's something that's important to you. So, you know, I know there's a lot of black belts out there that may have never competed before, but if that's one of their students' goals, it would be helpful if they had competed, right?
Right. In the growth of the sport, I think it's either at the point or coming very close to the point where if you're smart about it, you can make a living owning your own school, right? And not necessarily driving a Bentley, but you can make a comfortable living owning your own school. That said, if you're going to pull the number of students necessary to pay for your lifestyle, you should also be able to address the concerns of all those students. Maybe it's self-defense, maybe it's losing weight, maybe it's getting in shape, or more importantly, when students get more advanced, if they say they want to compete or if they want to form a competition team, you can take care of them in terms of a competition environment.
Yeah, and that reminds me of a story of a guy I met at an Ibjjf regional tournament. He was training under a very well-known instructor, and that particular guy wasn't certified by the Ibjjf, and nowadays, to compete in an Ibjjf tournament, your instructor has to be certified by them.
Right.
And his instructor was more focused on the self-defense, not so focused on the competition. This guy wanted to have his students be part of the competition team. And so it just came to the point where he had to tell his instructor, look, if you're not going to be certified, then I'm going to have to do it on my own, and I'm going to have to find another teacher that's willing to do that. Right. And his instructor didn't want to have anything to do with it, so he actually left and joined another team. So I think your point is apt, that nowadays you should be able to provide the competition experience for your students, because some of them will be interested in that.
Right, definitely. I mean, speaking of competition too, let's go back to the Worlds, and I mean, I understand that some professors don't understand competition, and then there's qualms with the competition forum, like Ricksons Gracie at the last Worlds, where he said that he wished the rules either penalize stalling more or encourage the submission more.
That's right. Let's listen to what he says, and then we'll get into it.
I see like the evolutionary process of Jiu-Jitsu brings great athletes, but in my point of view, sometimes they coming to play more the technical, strategical aspect, because now the ruling those days favors sometimes what I believe is not exactly the progressive idea of controlling and submit. So I'm very happy to be here and see this action, but I really like to see a better
more submissions.
More submissions, yes, based on better rulings, yes.
So you would favor some changes in the rules to make submissions more common?
Definitely. Not only the submissions, but the actual, because some positions kind of stall too much the action. You know, they not there to really make the thing happen. They sometimes just to pull off the fight, and becomes a little boring to see. So sometimes the best fighters don't bring the best fights. And that's a little disappointed for me in terms of the potential they have to display here, and sometimes the things not happen.
As always, Rickson made a lot of really good points there. You know,
how would we go about accomplishing that, I guess was my question.
I mean, I think everybody would agree that we want to see more submissions.
Right.
But sometimes going for submissions, you open yourself up to getting countered. I think this leads into a bigger topic of the 50-50 position. That's probably
the elephant in the room right now, right?
The largest stalling position. And just to give you guys a heads up, next week we're going to have a full table with two very special guests, the Mendes brothers. Unless something goes wrong, the Mendes brothers will be here. So we'll definitely be able to talk a little bit more about the 50-50 and their perspective on that.
Right.
But that's a position that people have been complaining about for the past 3 years. That, it's a very stalling position, and I think there was talk back when it first surfaced that maybe it should be banned.
Right.
And I'm glad they didn't do that, because people have found a way out of it better. But with heel hooks illegal, there's sometimes not a lot of danger from that position, and sometimes you get one guy gets a sweep, the other guy gets a sweep backwards. So some of the fights are stalled. The Cobrinha Rafael Mendes final from the Worlds was, stalled quite a bit because of 50-50. They are getting a little faster at giving stalling warnings. I think that's a step in the right direction, but I think they could be a little bit faster.
Right. I mean, in terms of it being banned, you have Keenan Cornelius, who got that armbar from 50-50.
Over and over again.
Right. And there are sweeps from 50-50. So it's not, it's not only a stalling position. And I think there's a lot of vitriol out there of just, ban it, ban it, ban it, ban it. But yeah, I think quicker stalling warnings with that. And I mean, it's relatively, it's doable to see when someone's stalling. If they have the sleeve grip and they're just, laying out and pushing their hips, and you can tell.
Yeah.
So, do you think it should be a raw time thing?
Yeah. I think. Stalling warnings are generally given after, I think it's 30 seconds. So, yeah, I just think that I didn't see it being uniformly enforced throughout the tournament. So I'm not sure if it's, what they consider action and what's passive.
Because here's my question with that. 30 seconds in a 10-minute black belt match isn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty significant period of time, but it's not that big of a deal. But in a lower level at 5 minutes, that's actually a significant period of time.
Yeah, and you're not going to lose any points until the third warning, so that could be 30, 60, 90 seconds.
Exactly. You could burn almost, a quarter of the match that way.
Yeah. But yeah, they weren't giving stalling warnings for the Rafa Mendes match and also the Guillermo Mendes match. Both of those matches, they were in 50-50 almost the whole time. And it surprised me, this is what I want to talk about with the Mendes brothers next week, that it was Cobrinha that pulled the 50-50 this year.
Right.
Even though he's been the vocal complainer of the position.
Right.
So
yeah. It's complicated, to be sure. So, I mean, but there are people, and this isn't just isolated to Rickson. There are a lot of people. Gaval made a mention, or he had an interview in Gracie Mag where he said basically that there needs to be stricter or shorter stalling duration, and you have people that are actually trying to address this. So Rose Gracie has that they're Gracie tournaments where it's submission only, and then we have word that Lloyd, Irvin, and Joe Moreira are starting submission only tournaments, which, I mean, I've competed under IBJJF rules, and I wonder how that would work. So is it just that advantages don't count, or how does the whole submission-only tournament
there's no
work?
points.
No points at all?
No points, no advantages.
So so what happens if you draw? Are both people eliminated?
Both people are eliminated.
Wow.
Because, and she made a really good point with, getting back to Caleb, he interviewed Rose the other day, and actually I liked what Rose said. She said, if a match goes 15 minutes and there's no submissions, should it go to the guy that's been attacking the whole time because he's been the aggressor,
right,
or should it go to the guy that's done a good job of defending the whole time?
Right, nullifying.
Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu, the defense is just as important as the attacking. So she says you're both out.
Wow. But I mean, what if it's something like Bruno Malfacini and Caio in the last Worlds, where it was just, I got the sense that it was a stalemate because they're so evenly matched. You know what I mean? Like any given day, if one of them had a sniffle, the other one could have taken it.
Yeah.
And you had Caio who's going for that sweep at the last minute. It's I guess that's a fine line, right?
Yeah, but here's my issue with the submission only tournaments. Say it's you and I and Jacare and Galvao, and we're a 4-man tournament. And Jacare and Galvao go up first, two of the most aggressive guys in the sport, and neither one of them can get the submission. Now they're both out. Now it's you and I. You beat me. Now you're the champion. Are you better than Galvao and Jacare?
Right.
No, but on this day, you're the one that's going to take the gold medal. So I don't think that format will really say who's the best one.
I mean, it leaves it really prone to matchups, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting. I think the world is waiting to see. Everybody wants to see submissions, right? But does a submission-only tournament guarantee that there'll be more submissions? That's the question on everybody's mind.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the tournament, where if all goes well, we will be broadcasting that in July. I don't have the date right in front of me, but stay tuned. Yeah, the world's going to be watching to see how that pans out.
I mean, one more thing. It's easy to see this thing as like, Rose Gracie's tournament versus the IBJJF, whereas in reality, it's just alternatives.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
there's nothing to stop you from competing in her tournament and Ibjjf tournaments.
Yeah, there'll be, you know, who says who has the best rule set?
Right.
Only the show will determine that.
Right.
And we got a comment in the chat room that one of the improvements for competition would be to invest more in the referees, having a team of well-educated and properly employed, meaning paid, referees, or having even 3 referees. I think that's a good point. The thing is, there's not that many guys out there.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu is growing worldwide, but for some reason we're not getting a lot of refs. And Galval made that point earlier that he wants 3 refs for every match. And there's just not enough referees out there.
In a perfect world, right? The other thing too is that's a hard sell for, you know, say someone's interested in reffing, you say you could be here till 10 p.m. You get here at 8 and you could be here till 10 p.m. because we have 3,000 people. And
Let me interject there. The way it works is you get 1 hour on, 1 hour off.
Okay.
So you do get a lot of rest time.
True, but I mean, even if you're in one location between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., that's a pretty long day.
It's a long day.
Yeah.
Would you want to do it?
No. I'll be perfectly honest. I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
That said, I totally respect the people that do it.
For sure. And it's a thankless job. I have a friend who used to ref and he doesn't ref anymore, and I asked him, why don't you ref anymore? And he told me, because I love my mother. I said, what?
What?
Because the comments coming from the crowd were against his mother.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's not a job I would want to do, but props to all you guys and Hillary
Right.
that do it. All right, next up we got Rolled Up with Carlson Jr. This was an episode that we filmed a couple months ago in Chicago, where Carlson Jr. lives. We were there for the IBJJF tournament, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and let's watch a preview clip.
So Carlson, your son has the unique distinction of being the first Japanese Gracie. Does that have any special meaning to you?
I think it's like Jiu-Jitsu it started in Japan, you know. That's why it's a really, you know, it started in India, went China to Japan, but got stronger in Japan. And, you know, so much story about the Gracie family against the Japanese. So my wife is Japanese, my son is born in Japan. It's a unique story, you know. You know, he got the look, half a Brazilian, half a Japanese. I think he don't have idea, you know, but it's unique, you know. I feel proud of that, you know. First Gracie Japanese, Carlson Gracie Neto.
I love the way he dusted his hands off after finishing the takedown. Like, my work is done here, people.
Right. And you know where that comes from? I was talking to Carlson. He said that comes from Tom and Jerry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's Jerry. Whenever he plays a trick on Tom, he'll walk away. And like
That's so awesome.
You know, whenever I meet people that have kids, I always compliment them on how cute their kids are. But man, that kid is so cute.
And he looks so happy.
Yeah, he was having a blast in there. His name is Neto. Do you know what Neto means in Portuguese?
Mm-mm.
I was so surprised I was surprised I hadn't learned this earlier. But Neto means the third.
Okay.
So Carlson's the second. Neto's the third.
Oh. Net in Korean means 4.
Oh.
One off.
There's probably no relation.
So close.
But yeah, that was such a fun time with Carlson. You know, I hadn't met him before we filmed that episode,
Right.
and all I knew about was his father, who was
Right.
I hadn't met, but seems like a scary Vale Tudo guy.
No, I mean, Carlson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is known for being like really intense.
Yep.
So you expect him to be equally intense.
Right, and it was just the opposite. He's the nicest guy, and that was a really fun episode. Look forward to watching that. That'll be up July 2nd. And people always ask me where you can watch Rolled Up. You can get it on Budo Videos online. Should be on YouTube at the same time, and also iTunes. With iTunes, you can watch it at home on your TV.
That'd be awesome.
Where do you watch your episodes usually?
Generally on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, next topic up is, got an update from the chat that Neto also means grandkid.
Oh.
Learn something new every day. We had a meeting with IBJJF yesterday, actually, and we meet with them maybe a couple times a year to catch up with things and what they're doing in the future. And it's always one. We had to cut the the meeting short so we could go train. But it's
That's
always
reason possible. by the way.
right. But these meetings can always go on for so long because there's so much to talk about. First of all, my buddy Stas from Russia wanted some clarification on the navy blue gis because there's been talk about whether they're legal or they're illegal.
Right.
And
Before the pans, we got a lot of comments on that.
right. And I honestly wasn't sure, so I brought that up and I got clarification that navy blue gis are legal. They're okay for the rest of 2012. And what they try to do is they don't change any rules throughout the year. Only every January they change the rules.
That's smart.
Yeah. So navy blue is one of my favorite color gis, so you guys don't worry about competing with him for the rest of the year. Other than that, there was some really big news about what they're going to do later this year. You don't even know this yet.
Oh, dang.
They're talking about something that has been brought up a lot in the past, and this is something they've wanted to do for a long time, but it's finally time for paid tournaments.
Oh, wow.
Competitors are going to get paid. The champions are going to get paid.
This has always been the big question, right?
Yep. It's not the Pans, not the World. It's a separate event. There's going to be one, maybe two of them later this year. Exact dates hasn't been set. I don't have all the full details, but point being, there will be a way for guys to get paid if you win these tournaments.
But I mean, even more so, I think this is one of those things where, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be the Super Bowl, but these will be sort of the shrines for competition, where this is where the best of the best come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's something on the line now.
Right. And you know, people say all the time, these guys train like champions, like professionals. They should be paid as professionals. And who's to argue with that? Yeah, for sure.
Right. And Kyle said, like Kyle said, you know, we put our bodies on the line.
Mm-hmm. That being said, just because you train really hard and train a lot, does that mean you should get paid?
No, I don't think so.
If you play, I mean, you let's see, what do? You like video games, right?
Love video games.
If you play video games 50 hours a week, does that mean you should get paid for that?
As much as I want to say yes, no.
So I think there's a point to where jiu-jitsu for most people is a hobby. And you could treat it like a profession, but does that mean you should get paid for it?
No, and that's a decision you have to make for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you have to I guess you have to take a little bit of responsibility and say, you know, there's my life, and you know, where do you put it in priorities? And if you decide that you're going to train 50 hours a week, you have to say, I'm going to train 50 hours a week, and I'm not necessarily going to get paid, but either I love what I do or I find it important enough that this is what I'm going to do. So great, go soldier on.
Yeah. That being said, I'm glad that there's more events happening where people do get paid, because we've lost so many talented guys that go to MMA.
Right.
And oftentimes, you know, there's some tough guys in MMA, and a jiu-jitsu black belt doesn't guarantee success.
Right.
And it saddens me to see these idols of our sport go and just get beat up, which happens sometimes.
And the other thing too is Galval's kind of, when you think about it, he's the exception, where he went to MMA and he did well, but he decided that it wasn't going as well as he thought it was. And as opposed to just fading off into obscurity or just going into teaching, he decided to come back to jiu-jitsu competition. And you don't see that often.
Him and Marcelo both did the same.
Right.
Yeah, they both had relatively bad experiences in
Right.
MMA. So I'm glad they've come back. We need people like that in our sport.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you did great, Andre. You did great.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one talking trash on Andre Galval.
Let's see, what else with Ibjjf? That was the main topic. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys up to date with when those tournaments are, and more details soon to come. But we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
BudoVideos.com, home of the world's largest selection of quality jiu-jitsu kimonos. Show-your roll, Storm, Tatami, Bull Terrier, Venom, and others. Styles from more than 30 top brands in stock and ready to ship. BudoVideos.com. You're only a click away from owning a new gi today.
Okay, we're back, and now our special guest is Shock Top.
Yes.
Welcome to the show. Shock Top, one of my favorite domestic beers, Belgian White.
So, Jake, you're a brown belt, and the brown belt division, at least the last World, was pretty stacked. So Gracie Mack posted this article, and it actually had me thinking, the absolutes. Do you think the brown belt absolute is as difficult to win as the black belt absolute? And here's the thing, and there's two sides of this, right? It's like the absolute version of the absolute, where it's, you know, are there tough guys that are hard to beat, or also, you know, for a brown belt against other brown belt, is the competition as stiff?
Is winning the brown belt as tough as the black belt? I'm going to say no, and that's because brown belt is typically the shortest belt. In some cases, a year.
Right.
Whereas black belt, there's no upper limit.
Right. Yeah. You take the ceiling off of that.
Right. So there could be guys that have had their black belt for 1 month or for 20 years.
Right.
So I think the black belt is still the tougher division. That being said, to me, one of the biggest differences between the brown belts and the black belts is that oftentimes the brown belts aren't so much on the radar. So you don't know what you're going to get. Whereas the black belts, if you're in the featherweight division, you know Cobrinha and
You know who the
Hafemedes
Titans
are,
are, right?
If you're in the Rooster division, you better be preparing for Kaio or Bruno.
Right.
But the brown belts, you never quite know what to expect, and we've had some really tough guys in there, like Felipe Pena and DJ Jackson, both tearing it up. But I think the surprise factor might be a little bit more.
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, everyone knew who Kron Gracie was, but when he was a brown belt, imagine being a brown belt trying to go in the brown belt adult, and you know, near the top of the mountain, eventually, if you do well, you have that facing you.
Yeah, you're right. In 2007, Kron Gracie was destroying everybody, usually in less than 1, certainly less than 2 minutes.
Right.
So the expectations were so high when he got his black belt. And first match at black belt,
right,
Sergio Moraes was waiting across from him, and the rest is history. So that's a pretty clear example of why the black belt's tougher than the brown belt.
But like you said, it could take black belts a couple of years to come into their own.
Yeah.
Especially with
that being said, a new black belt like Kron, he's developing his style, one of the most exciting guys out there. For sure, it takes a while to get into it.
So, I mean, this is a little bit of an aside, but as a brown belt and a competition brown belt, do you think competition is shaping your game or what techniques you use? Or
me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think anybody out there that's not watching competition is doing themselves a disservice.
Right.
You see what's working and what's not, and people are always putting on their A game in competition.
Right.
So you'd be foolish not to watch that.
Right.
Let's see. We had some exciting news the past couple of weeks since the Worlds. One of the best matches.
Yeah.
Adolfo Vieira versus Buchecha. I think I've seen this 5 times already at least. And we made the rare decision to put that on YouTube the same day.
Right.
And wow, that thing got almost 600,000 views in 2 days.
Right. I mean, the initial rush was within hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. We've never had a video clip get that many views that quick. That being said, let's take a look.
This is nuts.
Uh-oh. The scramble.
Oh!
Good double leg.
Oh, my goodness
He
sakes.
got an immediate 2 points for that.
Oh,
this will be the big upset.
No, no. That arm is tight. Oh, he's able to
That's an advantage.
advantage. Watch this arm position. Oh, no. That is tight. Oh, that's really tight. That's on. That's an American lock. Oh, that's on. An arm lock's on.
He's not on anymore.
Oh, now it's off.
He's out.
Wow.
Wow. What a fight. Oh my God.
So exciting.
It still brings the biggest smile to my face.
Yeah, and I think you can hear it in the video clip that the crowd is just going crazy.
The other thing too, I mean, as amazing as our live pass is, when people are stomping and cheering, there's a certain like physical, like more than hear it, you feel it, especially when something like that happens.
Yep. And I've talked to so many people about, in my opinion, in my biased opinion, how much better the experience is watching online. Because you get the commentary. We had Sean Williams, who's so knowledgeable, and Braulio this time, which was an awesome addition. It was great having him there, which you don't get when you're watching live. If you're watching live at the venue, you're watching 10 mats all at once. You don't know who's who. It's just so overwhelming.
Even with a press pass, even being ground level, even being able to crouch by the side of the mat.
Yeah.
I lose count within minutes of being at an event at when I miss something on another mat. Or when, a guy's back is to me and I just see stuff happening and then a guy gets swept or submitted and I'm like, that was amazing, the thing that I didn't just see.
Right.
So
that being said, there's a certain electricity when you're there live. You get all the teams. You got all the Alliance guys all wearing black shirts all in one section. You got the Gracie Baja guys wearing the red shirts in another section. You got the Humaita guys all chanting and cheering.
I remember looking up at from the Budo booth during the finals, and just seeing the swaths. You could almost draw a circle around each team. And when something would happen for each team, you could see one side go crazy. And yeah, the live event, it's something to see. It's something to see.
If you live wherever you live in the world, if you're a jiu-jitsu fan, you owe it to yourself at least once in your life to go and experience it live. That being said, I think the best experience would be to go there live and have the live pass and listen to the commentary while you're watching.
If only to get the replay, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the replay is up now. We announced last week that it'd be up in a week. It is up now. You can see all day Saturday and Sunday. I think it's 23 hours long. So that's a lot of footage. And like we talked about earlier, so much you can learn from that.
Oh man,
did you learn much from the Worlds, technique-wise?
It's so much so that I have to write stuff down. And having covered a few events live, I know that because after 4 days or even 2 days, everything becomes a blur. And you remember Buchecha matches by Buchecha's match by the ending, right? Yeah. But there was a lot that happened before that.
Right.
And add to the fact that there were how many matches that day? Right. So
yeah, it's a good point. Like I'll think, oh, that was really cool what that guy did. I got to try that next time I get on the mats. And then you see 20 matches after that and it's just gone. So yeah, taking notes is a good point.
So speaking of matches, someone pulled what I would consider a pretty uncharacteristic submission, and that's Jean-D's flying armbar. So am I fair in that? Am I fair in saying that, that's not something I would necessarily...
Yeah, he's a pretty conservative guy, very intelligent grappler. He's one of the most winningest guys out there,
right.
But he's not known for this flying attacks.
Right. Let's see the clip.
Whoa! Wow. Sweet move.
Flying arm lock. I think he got it.
Oh!
Wow.
Beautiful. Oh. Wow, what a submission.
Right.
It's so cool to see that in the heavyweight division.
Right, and yeah. And Jean-D does move pretty, he moves well for a heavyweight.
Especially considering his age.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's awesome. And, we're friends with Boss Rutan on Inside MMA. Hello, Boss and Kenny. So we let them use the footage for their show, Inside MMA. And then, so a lot of people were happy to see jiu-jitsu in the gi on an MMA show.
It's nice to see that acknowledgement.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's change topics now. One of the best-selling products of this year has been Jeff Glover's Darcepedia DVD. And Dane, I know you're a fan, as I am, of the Darce. Tell me your experience with the DVD and your training with it.
Okay, so disclaimer, this thing is really dense. It's 2 DVDs. It's more than 3 hours. And it's not just the length of the thing. Jeff breaks down every technique that he shows into minute detail. So even the simple Darce, bolt cutter to shove the arm through to, the setup and everything, almost immediately I was noticing things with his stance, how low he got, things like that. I'm like, I don't do that, and that looks like it would work well. And it started making a difference. So I haven't even, admittedly, I haven't got through the first DVD.
You've been working on it for like a month.
Yeah. I've scrolled through the second DVD, and I've seen a bunch of the transitions that he does. But in terms of really digesting it, I've been working on the first DVD. And one of the things I've noticed about that especially is that I like how it evolves. It's not just here's one technique, here's another, variation, here's another variation, here's another variation. But it's, here's the basic Darce, and if that doesn't work, this. And he builds almost a chain of submissions so that it's not just like I have this amazing Darce, but if the Darce doesn't work out, it's labeled in the menu that, failed this, go to this.
Yeah.
And that's important because at the point that I'm at in my game, it's not so much that I have a lack of techniques, it's that those techniques don't necessarily, work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with a lot of DVDs out there. They say, you're going to do this, and then you're going to submit the guy.
Right.
It doesn't always work that way. You're going to try something, it's going to fail, and you got to have a backup. And Jeff shows that really well,
right.
what to do when something doesn't go right.
That's it. And I mean, to expand on that, the second DVD where he says, you know, he literally goes, the Darce fails, and then he shows transitions to things like guillotines and stuff like that, which is brilliant. The other thing too that I want to mention, and this is great, is like DVD packaging. I generally just like, oh, away, and then I watch the DVD. But you tipped me off to this, and I actually paid attention to the DVD packaging. And I'm not, no spoilers, but it is actually some of the funniest stuff I've seen, where it looks serious at first glance, but if you start reading it, you're like, this is freaking brilliant. Right. So like, top to bottom, it's quality. And the other thing too is there was footage at the end of the DVD, and I don't want to say it was filler, but I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily helpful to me. And then you see Jeff pull off the techniques in the DVD.
Right. In competition.
In competition.
Yeah.
And it's less of just the technique and more of this is how it looks in a real life situation. Yep. I mean, arguably for BJJ at the highest stakes, right? This is how it works when it wins matches at a high level. Let
me cut you off right there. Let's take a look at the clip. Cool. You already showed it. All right. Dana, I understand that you have a gift you want to give to people.
Okay, so because the Darce Beat is my favorite DVD so far, and because I was harping on it pretty hard on the blog, if you follow it, I have a coupon code for you guys, and it is my name, Dane, D-A-N-E. So if you go to Budo Videos and you order the Darcepedia and you put in the coupon code Dane, D-A-N-E, you'll get $5 off. Get at it. Now, I'll wait.
That's very nice of you.
It's so right.
A couple more products I want to make an announcement. You know, we're in the age of where $150 gi is the norm.
Right.
$160 is even common. $170. There's even some as high as $300. That being said, we just got in today some tatami gis. Tatami is a great brand out of England that are $100 or less. Let's take a look at them here. These are called the Tatami Basic Nova gi. I tried one on today. It's pretty lightweight. Let's take a look at the picture again. It's pretty lightweight, so perfect for competition, but great price, $89.95.
You know what's nice about this is that the front and back are pretty plain, so that you can put patches as you need it, team patches, whatever.
$89.95.
That's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's a great price for blue ones. $99.95.
I think I need to talk to you about something.
So yeah, great deal on those. I don't know how many we have, but we have some in stock right now. The Tatami Basic Nova gi. Another gi that came in is the Mushin gi from Bull Terrier. This is a Japanese brand, and we have a picture here of awesome looking gi. I have one of those myself. The nice thing about that, on the inside it's really flashy,
right?
But when you have it closed, not flashy at all.
Right. Is it arguably reversible?
No. But we have only a few of those left. That is limited edition, so get those while you can. And that's all we had for today. Anything else you want to add, Dane?
Nope, other than thank you for tuning in and more people in the chat room.
Yeah, guys, join us in the chat room. We like to make this a dialogue. It's more fun if you're here to ask us questions. We can interact with you. So we'll be here every Friday at 6:30 p.m. California time. Please join us there. The only other announcements we had was, again, next week we'll be here with the Mendes brothers. So if you can't join us live, ask us any questions you want via our Facebook page. That's Budo for Life. Or you can hit me up on Twitter at Budo Jake. And you're on Twitter too.
Absolutely. Promised future. Promised_future.
And yeah, so thanks again for tuning in, guys. We'll see you again next week. Keep on rolling.